You know what James Madison was afraid of? Not kings, not armies, not foreign enemies. He was afraid of us. He was afraid that American people would eventually stop paying attention. And the moment they did, the factions would eat this republic alive. He called it the mortal disease of popular governments. Not a cold, not a cough, but a disease, a mortal disease. And he said that in the predetermination, let's say, of the Constitution of the United States. And I'm going to show you tonight the patient because the symptoms are everywhere. A war that started with a Truth Social post at 2 a.m. in the morning. 13 American flag draped coffins and counting, a $200 billion tab. 140 out of roughly 200 wounded service members are coming home with traumatic brain injuries. The wounds that don't bleed on camera, but bleed every single day for the rest of their lives. And the woman whose entire job it is to tell the president and the Congress the truth about threats to this nation, sitting under oath on Capitol Hill and choosing not to. So that's tonight's show. That's going to be the show tonight. Of course, I am Chief Jarome Bell, 27 years in the United States Navy. I have a son in the United States Air Force right now, not hypothetically, right now. So every one of these decisions lands at my door personally, and I will not be quiet. So Madison said, you cannot eliminate factions, you can only control them through the machinery of a republic. Representation, separation of powers, checks and balances, the consent of the governed. So here's the question that haunts this entire broadcast. Who gave consent for this war? Nobody. That's the answer. Nobody voted. Nobody was asked. Nobody consented. One man, one post, and the machinery of the most powerful military on earth was set into motion. While 330 million Americans were asleep. So right now, Madison is spinning in his grave so fast that he could power the eastern seaboard. And that's what we're unpacking tonight. So let's get after it. So now we are at day 23 of Operation Epic Fury. And tonight, right now, as you're watching this, the situation has escalated again with President Trump's 48-hour. We're down to like about 4 or 5 hours now, I think, or something like that. his ultimatum that Iran open up the Straits of Hormuz completely, or he will start blowing up the infrastructure, starting with the biggest power plant in Iran. That right there in itself is a war crime. It's a commission and an admission and commission to a war crime. When you start targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure, that from the Geneva Convention and the Nuremberg trials is the definition of a war crime. So Israel has reported that an Iranian missile hit Dimona. Iran is going after rather the nuclear sites of Israel, as well they should. The southern town hosting Israel's nuclear facility, wounding dozens. Unfortunately, civilians are there. Unfortunately, Israel has their nuclear sites tucked in to civilian areas. Bet you guys didn't know that, huh? And Iran is claiming its naval forces destroyed facilities at Al Mihad base in the UAE and Ali Al Salam Air Base in Kuwait. So that happened a couple of days ago. The fourth week of this war is beginning hotter than the third week ended. So now let me give you the real scorecard, not the White House press release. What the administration says is accomplished. Destroy Iran's ballistic missiles and missile industry, annihilate the Iranian Navy, eliminate proxies, guarantee Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. But what is actually happening on the ground? 13 or 14 or whatever number it is, its official number, I believe, still 13. And I'm going to say their names because they deserve to be said again. Major Jeffrey O'Brien, 45. Chief Warrant Officer, 3. Robert Marzan. Captain Cody Cork, 35. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore, 39. Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens, 42. Specialist, who was posthumously promoted, Declan Cody, 20. Of roughly 200 troops wounded, 140 have traumatic brain injuries. And that's not a wound that will show up on a casualty list. That's a man or a woman coming home to his wife or husband, not knowing who he is anymore. Because TBIs don't make the news. All they do is make VA waiting rooms. And now the Pentagon is sitting on a $200 billion war funding request. I thought the war was over. I thought we had won. I thought their Navy, their Army, their ability to launch weapons, I thought all of that was decimated, was obliterated. However, it seems not to be the case. It seems that the gaslighting continues. So that's sitting at the White House. 3 weeks in, 3 weeks in, $200 billion with no end game. K9 girl, I see you over there. Jamie, what's happening over there in Getterland? I see you. Glad you guys could tune in. Glad you guys are here tonight. Carolyn, as always, see you over there on YouTube. Welcome. Joseph Olson, my main man on the show. Thank you for tuning in too, brother. Appreciate you. Over 2,500 U.S. troops trapped in Iraq, over 50,000 U.S. troops in the Mideast. So, I heard a little earlier, Joe, that was a comment from Joe. I heard a little earlier that the, I guess you can say the Iraqi terrorists, we would call them terrorists, they actually, from what I understand, allowed the U.S. troops to evacuate and leave Iraq, leave the bases in Iraq. So we'll see what happens with that. But they did let them leave. So suppose it. Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina is now asking. This is a Republican, even though so I believe I don't even think he's running again. But what ultimately are we trying to accomplish? That's the question. Because it changes. It changes every day with Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but the goals change. The goalposts move every day. What are we trying to accomplish there? That's a Republican senator, not a Democrat, a Republican. Even though you guys might call him a rhino, and he may be, but it's still a Republican asking the question. Every American family with a kid is asking right now in uniform. My wife got mad at me. She said, because I put up I posted a X post from someone else. It wasn't I. And the post said that I'll send my kid when you send Barron Trump, and it has Barron, if you go on my Facebook page, and it has a picture or a post of Barron Trump in an army uniform. And the caption reads, I'll send my son when you send Barron Trump. So which means people are not sending their sons to this war. They are not sending their kids to die for Israel. And so she got mad at me because I posted, she thought I was talking about our kid. No, I don't want my kid to go over there. Not at all. I mean, he is in the Air Force. But no, do I want my kid to go over there fighting Israel's wars? No, not at all. Not at all. And that was to mean that no kid should go unless their kids go. It always seems like it's our kids, but never their kids, right? So here's where it gets dark, let's say on the energy front, because if Trump goes ahead with blowing up their infrastructure, starting with the power plants and putting them in the dark, Iran has promised there will be hell to pay, and I believe we'll see $200 gas immediately if Trump does this. He seems a little unhinged at times. I mean, it's good to have the biggest, strongest, most powerful military at your disposal, but when you have something like this at your disposal, you can't just fly off the handle because someone says something bad about you, or because they challenge you, or because they're kicking your butt. I mean, we're not winning, no matter how much devastation has been put into Iran. We're losing. We have our bases over in the region have been devastated. We have evacuated those bases. We are operating away from those bases. I would tell you that the U.S. military has evacuated those bases. We don't want any more of our soldiers to die, or sailors that's on those bases, or airmen. So as the U.S. tries to decimate the Iranian regime military, the Trump administration is simultaneously considering lifting sanctions on Iranian oil stranded at sea. And they've done this. I've seen the documents through the Treasury. The Treasury has done this. And this, in fact, basically has given Iran $14 billion. And they've done this to ease the energy crisis caused by the war that we and Israel started. That's a $14 billion payday. I think it's like 150 million gallons or barrels of oil, not gallons, but barrels of oil that was on Iranian tankers that's just sitting on the water. And we lifted sanctions on that. We've done that because we're losing. Do you guys understand that? That's $14 billion right to Iran. People complained about Barack Obama. I did too. Shit. People complained about Barack Obama giving cash what was it, $1.4 billion in cash on planes that they sent. Well, that was Iranian money that we confiscated, to be honest. But it's 1.4 billion. We just gave them $14 billion for something that we did, that we started. So I want you guys to read that and listen to that again. We are at war with Iran, and we're about to let them sell oil again because the war we started is crashing energy markets. And Trump is begging for help. He's begging for help. He's threatening to decimate the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure of Iran. If Iran in 48 hours, less than that now, don't open up the Straits of Hormuz completely. Well, what he means by completely is this, because the straits are open. They're open to those tankers that want to pass by and buy oil in yuan. It's just not open to the United States and Israel or countries that do business with us. But the straits are open, just not for us. So Madison called that a faction is serving its own interests adverse to the community. I call it a mess. I call it a mess. So Trump said, and a couple of days ago, and keeps saying that the U.S. is very close to meeting our objectives. Who knows what the hell they are, but very close to meeting our objectives and considering winding down military efforts. He's looking for an off ramp, and as well, he should. While a senior Iranian source told CNN that there has been no reduction in military activity in the region. And I don't believe there has either. Because they're bombing 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. So either the president is right and we're nearly done, or he's managing perception. Gaslighting is what I call it. Managing perception is I want it to be nice, but it's truly gaslighting. But I've seen both in 27 years. I'm not calling it yet, but I'm watching. I know what I feel is happening. I know what I see is happening. I know what I know through back channels is happening. I know what I see on the news is happening. I know the 82nd Airborne may be sent. I know we have 2 MEUs being sent, military Marine Expeditionary Units. But the question Madison demands that we ask, what faction is being served by this war? And what faction is paying the price? The answer to the second question is sitting in Arlington National Cemetery and VA hospitals from Boise to Baltimore. That's the faction that's paying the price. Us and our sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, wives, husbands. I was just checking the chat. That's it. Until I get there. I'm going to play a clip here in a second, though. because I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I talked about someone who buried her oath in her prepared remarks, basically. Right, here we go. As soon as I can find it, I got a lot of videos on here. But again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in to the Radical Republicans live show. So here we go. I'm going to play this.
Director Gabbard, last year you testified that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. Do you stand by that statement? Yes or no?
Context matters with that statement.
Yes or no?
Iran had all of the materials and capabilities to do so.
Mr. Chairman, I reclaim my time. It's an easy answer. You either stand by what you said last year or not.
It is a serious question that requires the totality
Director Gabbard,
of the information
I reclaim my
available.
time. I reclaim my time. Did you, when President Trump was asked about your testimony, he said you were wrong. Were you lying or not?
I stand by the intelligence community's
With that,
complete assessment.
Director Ratcliffe, when it came to the director's testimony, she said that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon last spring in Congress. And so the Supreme Leader has not authorized the nuclear weapons program. Do you agree with what she said or not? Yes or no?
The director's right here. She can speak for herself.
Oh, so I thought this was an intelligence community briefing. Let's move on. Trump also said he didn't care what you thought or said. Should he care about what you have to say when it comes to intelligence?
I continue to provide the president with the intelligence community's assessments on all matters.
So let me just kind of get this straight. The department, you said that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon last year. President Trump said he didn't care what you thought, and you were wrong. They engaged in Operation Midnight Hammer. He then says it was obliterated. We hear later reports that in open source reporting that it was only set back by a few months. Then at the beginning of this war, he said that they were weeks away. I just want to kind of get a sense of, were they weeks away of achieving a nuclear weapon? Yes or no?
Congressman, this is a serious matter, and you've made some very serious mischaracterizations
yes
here.
Yes or no? Were they weeks
and so
away?
It would be
yes
a
or no?
disservice to you and the American people to answer this question with a mere yes or no.
Reclaiming my time. Were they weeks away or not? The American people need to know if this was an imminent threat or not. If they're weeks away or not. If they're months away or not. None of this dodging. Were they an imminent threat? Yesterday you said that only the president, the only person who can determine what is an imminent threat is the President of the United States. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes, I do.
Director Ratcliffe, do you agree with that assessment? That the President is the only person that can determine if something is an imminent threat or not?
The president, as commander-in-chief, gets to make a decision about what's an imminent threat. The intelligence community, well, the intelligence.
Reclaim my time.
The intelligence
reclaim my time.
Intelligence community has provided a body of intelligence that supports
the reason why
the decision
is that if the president can determine and ignore what you're doing, why do you guys even have a job? Why do you even advise them? So you're saying tomorrow the president of the United States can say China is an imminent threat, and then he can take his own. No matter what the intelligence says, he can take his own action. So that's what you're basically saying. Okay, let's go on. Director Gabbard, you said that North Korea has intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the homeland. Yet, the Defense Department said that Iran was at least 10 years away from achieving an intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach the homeland. Which one is a more serious threat, North Korea or Iran?
These threats are taken within the context of the total body of intelligence reporting.
So that's it should be, and that's my point. it's not just about having the capability of building a weapon. It's if they can actually deliver that weapon, if they can, they have the intention of doing that. How many weeks away are they? We haven't heard that there were weeks away. We haven't heard that there were months away. But that's what we're waiting for. Imminent, to me, means is that they're mobilizing troops. They're moving things into position, artillery. They're getting ready to attack. But everything that we've heard is that this is not.
Oh, so you guys get the gist of that, right? So she, this was on the heels of Joe Kent resigning. I think I'm going to get to that a little later. But if you guys don't know what I'm talking about as far as Madison and the factions, that's in his Federalist 10 papers. Federalist 10 papers. So you guys understand that. Okay, yeah, I read a lot of stuff. Hey, how'd this chair get back in? I keep moving that chair and it keeps coming back, man. And like Joe said, yeah, $200 billion sitting on the White House desk for more money after a $1.5 trillion budget. Meanwhile, this is from Joe Olson. TSA agents have not been paid since February 14th due to shutdown. And God bless those people for still working out there doing their job. Some have not. Some has refused to come to work now. I'm hearing that there's long TSA lines at these airports, and it's going to get worse. And unfortunately, I'm traveling by plane in June, so hopefully this should be over by then. But they were talking till September, all the way to September. So, but yeah, so Tulsi, she's the director of national intelligence, the president's supposed to be the president's principal intelligence advisor. This is supposedly what her job actually is. She oversees all 18 intelligence agencies. She is, I use this word, but I don't think none of them even know what the hell it means anymore, or the oath that they took. But she is constitutionally and legally responsible for delivering objective, unvarnished assessments of threats to the United States and to the president and to Congress. And it sounds like she did that in writing before, but in her testimony, she refused to say. She basically said, well, it's the president, and maybe she's just trying to throw President Trump under the bus. He made the decision on his own. He had the information. So, but anyway, that is the entire job. This is not politics, not spin. That's the truth. That's her whole sole job. And she took an oath to do that. I can't understand. And she was Army lieutenant or something, first lieutenant, second lieutenant, whatever the hell. And she took an oath to that under God before the United States Senate and before the American people. So now let me show you again what she did with that oath. I'm going to play another clip for you. You saw the first one, so I'm going to play this second clip. Maybe give her another chance, right? Here we go.
Last night, the president said that the United States knew nothing about the attack and called on Israel to stop similar attacks on energy. Israel denies this and says that the attack was cleared by the United States. So my question is, what does the intelligence community assess Israel's goals in this war to be? And are those goals aligned with the goals of the United States?
I'm thinking carefully here about what can be said in this open setting versus a closed setting.
Are the goals aligned?
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
And how do they differ?
We can see through the operations that the Israeli government has been focused on disabling the Iranian leadership, and taking out several members, obviously beginning with the Ayatollah, the supreme leader. And they continue to focus on that effort.
And how does that differ from our goals?
The president has stated that his objectives are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile launching capability, their ballistic missile production capability, and their Navy, the IRGC Navy, and mine-laying capability.
So the death and destruction continues. The economic cost to the United States, to Israel, to the Gulf states, and to the world continues to increase. So I want to ask you, to the best of your knowledge, do you know whether Israel is supportive of the president's call to make a deal with Iran?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know Israel's position on that.
And to what do you attribute Israel's decision to strike Iranian energy infrastructure, despite President Trump's call to keep those facilities off limits?
I don't have an answer for that.
So there's two things clear to me. She doesn't know her job and she doesn't know the law. So you just watched the Director of National Intelligence sit before the Senate Intelligence Committee and say it's not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat. That's up to the president. In one setting, she made President Trump King of America. That's up to the president. You know, I'm going to need a minute with that. All right, so you're telling me the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence, telling the Senate Intelligence Committee that determining threats is not her job? If that's not her responsibility, whose is it? The mailman? Secretary of Agriculture, maybe? Whose? See, but here's where it goes from embarrassing to something much darker. Let me tell you what Tulsi could have did before I give you that comment. She had the opportunity, after this was on the back end of Joe Kent resigning. She had the opportunity to be the front runner of the president of the United States, the first woman president of the United States in 2028, if she had done one thing: get in front of that committee and read her resignation letter and state the reasons why. That's what she should have did. Instead of getting up here looking like a fool, like an idiot, like she don't know her job, like she's just Trump's bootlicker, because that's what she looks like, right? She's ruined all her credibility. She's done. After this, she won't get elected. She'll probably be maybe a Fox News host. She won't be in any other government. She may be, a lobbyist or something. She'll get a YouTube. She'll get a podcast. But it's something much darker, because what she said out loud was only half of the story. The other half she tried to hide. So in her written testimony submitted to the Senate ahead of the hearing, Gabbard wrote that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's strikes, because that's what President Trump told us, right? You remember that? That's what President Trump told us, right? It was obliterated. I can probably load that clip up. But I know you remember that it was obliterated. that there had been no effort since then to rebuild. This is what she wrote. This is what she sent. That the underground facility entrances were buried and shuttered with cement. This is what she tried to hide. This is in her written testimony. This is it. This is what she sent to them. They're looking at this. They're reading this back to her. And then she sits there like she doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. The official submitted on the record assessment of the entire United States Intelligence Committee, all 18 agencies, reports to her. This was the report of all of them. This is what they all said. And then she sat down at that table and skipped over all those sections entirely in her spoken remarks. Just skipped over, man. I didn't mean it. Senator Warner noticed. He asked her why. He said, I recognize, he asked her why, right? And she said, her response was, I recognize that time was running long. Really? Really? You were testifying for 2 days, right? And it probably could have went 3 or 4. She was on a hot seat though, right? He asked her, why did you skip over all that stuff, right? She said, well, I recognize the time was running long. The time was running long? 13 Americans are dead officially. 140 are coming home with brain injuries, if not more. 3 weeks into a war with no congressional authorization, and Tulsi Gabbard skipped the part of her testimony that contradicts the president's justification for that war because time was running long? No. Let me be precise about what actually happened because Senator Ossoff asked her directly. Was the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no? Her response is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat. What? So Ossoff, if you guys seen this, man, go watch. I mean, I played the clip, but go watch the entire thing. I just played a 3-minute clip, 5-minute, whatever it was, right? Ossoff pushed back. It is precisely your responsibility. This is the worldwide threats hearing. This is what this is. This is what you do. This is your title. You are evading this question because to provide a candid answer would contradict the White House. That's what it was. He was right, and she knew he was right, and she sat there anyway. So now I want to pull out Tulsi Gabbard's own words, not her enemies, not the media, her own mouth. On the House floor, under the United States Capitol dome, January 9th, 2020, 6 years ago. Congressman Tulsi Gabbard stood up and said, and this is in the congressional record, so don't talk about, oh, you hate Trump, you have TDS, what happened to you? Are you a Democrat now? And all this nonsense that I get on a daily basis from the cult because I'm MAGA, but I'm standing up for America first, Americans first, America only, because I don't have cognitive dissonance. I understand what my oath I took in 1985 all the way through 2012, 27 years. I know and understand what my oath means and meant then and now, and I still live it. So for the military people that served with me that are attacking me for these people not standing up to their oath or not honoring their oath, You have the problem. You have the problem. So this was January 9th, 2020, 6 years ago. She stood up and said these words, Tulsi Gabbard, out of her own mouth on the House floor under the United States Capitol dome. President Trump has committed an illegal and unconstitutional act of war, pushing our nation headlong into a war with Iran without any authorization from Congress. A war that would be so costly and devastating, it would make our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan look like a picnic. So that was Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. And that was about the single strike, the single strike, one missile, just a strike, not this bullshit we're in now, but a single strike that killed Soleimani. Then Congressman Barra faced her last week and asked, do you still believe that? Right? Do you still believe that President Trump has committed an illegal and unconstitutional act of war by killing Soleimani? And she said, she really should resign or be fired or shamed out of or something. She needs to go. But she said, my own personal and political views, I was asked and required by Congress and by the president in this role to check those views at the door. What? Say that again. My own personal and political views, I was asked and required by Congress and by the president in this role to check those views at the door. Check all your morals, check all your political views, check what you actually believe in, check your oath at the door, check everything at the door, and just be a bootlicker. That's what basically she said, right? And she definitely checked her oath at the door. She also checked the truth at the door. She checked the families of those 13 dead Americans from this 23-day war at the door. And it's all because the man who appointed her was watching. You can't cross that guy. He had already called her stupid. I mean, this chick, she could have laid the freaking hammer down. I guess she forgot that Trump called her stupid because when she actually gave that assessment last year, he said, oh, she's stupid. She don't know what she's talking about. This is the the DNI, right? This is who she is. And he said, she don't know what she's talking about. She's stupid. And then she bootlicked him. Oh, man, she had the opportunity of a freaking lifetime, that nobody gets as a lifetime. Payback on Donald Trump before he gets you. Wow, man, did she blow it? Wow. See, but I know what service looks like. I wore it for 27 years. Service is telling the truth, even when the truth is hard, man. And I tell it, I try to do it every day on this show, unapologetically, right? On the unapologetic truth. Unedited, unfiltered, uncensored, unscripted, unapologetic truth. And everything I do, everything I post on social media, everything I say here on the show, standing in front of power and saying, here is the data. This is what the data says. Whether you like it or not, that's what intelligence professionals do. That's what the DNI is supposed to do. This is what has got us to Iraq because we got bad intelligence from Israel. This is where we are now. We got bad intelligence. Whose fucking intelligence, excuse me? But whose intelligence are we going by? Ours or Israel's? I think we're going by Israel's. It's obvious we're using Israel's intelligence to go after Iran because we definitely can't be using these. And they didn't hold them accountable. There's no accountability in this administration because if you do hold somebody accountable, then you get blacklisted. Joe Kent. But that's what the DNI is supposed to do. What Tulsi Gabbard did on March 18th, 2026 was the opposite of her service. And what she did was basically treason to the American people and to the United States of America. She had the intelligence. She had it in writing, submitted it in writing, submitted it to Congress. And then she sat there 3 feet from a microphone under oath and swallowed it. Didn't spit it, she swallowed it. Not for the country, not for the Constitution, not for the 13 dead or the 140 brain injured. She did it for one man's approval. She swallowed it. That is not intelligence leadership. What she was, what she looked at, and what she sounded like that day was a hostage reading a statement. Every service member, every Gold Star family, every person who believed Tulsi Gabbard was something different deserves to know exactly what happened in that room on March 8th, and I just gave it to you. She knew, she had it in writing, and she chose silence. Oath dishonored. So now, while Gabbard was choosing silence, someone else in that same building was choosing something different. His name is Joe Kent. His story is a lot more complicated than either side wants you to believe, okay? And if you saw the Tucker interview, go watch the Tucker interview. He lays it out. Go watch what the FBI did to them. She sat there. She could have told all of this. She could have been the freaking hero. But instead, Joe Kent's the hero in my book. Because here's the thing about this week. We had one intelligence officer who buried the truth to keep her job, and another one who blew the whole thing up on his way out the door. One stayed, one walked. And before you decide which one you respect more, you need to hear the whole story. So, before I get into that, man, let me check. I always got to check the chat because I produce my own show, right? I produce my own show, and I have to go and check, man. I have to check the chats because I know it's busy sometimes in campaigns and everything like that I may have to read on air. So Joe Kent, decorated Army Green Beret, 11 combat deployments, 20-year career CIA officer. His wife, Shannon Kent, sister in arms of mine, a senior chief petty officer, a Navy cryptologist, was killed in a terrorist bombing in Syria in 2019. I mean, this man buried his wife because of this kind of war. It's like he's reliving it again, man. He doesn't want other people to go through this. And then he took a job trying to prevent the next one. This is why he took that job. He resigned Tuesday as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Stated publicly, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Kent argued that as NCTC director, his agency should have been the primary body assessing any imminent strike. And because his analysis found no evidence of imminence, He concluded the war's justification was manufactured. Well, here's where it gets complicated. And I need you to hold two things in your head at once. Within hours of his resignation, news broke that Kent had been under FBI investigation for weeks for allegedly leaking classified information and that he had been cut out of Operation Epic Fury planning meetings and the president's daily briefings. So the White House position on this was Kent was excluded because of the ongoing leak investigation. The intelligence was too sensitive for someone that they no longer trusted. Okay. So which one is it? Right? Whistleblower who saw a war built on bad intel and had the guts to say so, or a leaker who got caught and used his resignation letter as cover. Okay, well, here's what I know from 27 years in the uniform. Both things can be true. A man can be right about the substance and wrong about the method. A man can have legitimate doubts about a war and still have committed a crime in how he expressed them. And these are not mutually exclusive. But here's the constitutional question that nobody wants to touch. Tulsi Gabbard testified before Congress and declined to say Iran was an imminent threat under oath before Congress. The Director of National Intelligence couldn't or wouldn't confirm the justification for the war. So Madison's republic that they wanted, right? You know, in Federalist number 10, it requires informed consent. So if the intelligence community's own leadership can't confirm the justification for war in public on the record, then we have a faction problem, not a Joe Kent problem. So Congress, I guess they're asking when and how this war ends, right? 3 weeks. 3 weeks in, no vote ever taken to authorize it. So how can they even question? I guess they're asking, but since they didn't authorize it, can they really ask the question? Because this is obviously the faction that won't do its job. The Congress and the war powers crisis. This is what I call this, right? The faction that won't do its job. These are people, 535 people that we put in Congress as our representatives in this republic, which we thought we had. They won't do their job. So Madison designed a system, and I'm telling you, go read Madison's 10th paper. Go read Federalist number 10. Okay? So you guys really understand what I'm talking about. But Madison designed a system where the legislature holds the war-making power. It was by design. Article 1, Section 8, we've gone over this before, and I'm probably going to keep going over it every week until it gets into some people's heads that not because the founders trusted Congress more than the president, but because they trusted no single man with the power to send other men's sons to die. They knew this. The founding fathers understood this. No single man could be trusted. He's not sending his kid. He's not sending Barron. So what launched on February 28th, it wasn't a strike. I said that then. It wasn't a limited action. I said that then. It was a war aimed at the systematic degradation of the Iranian government. It was a regime change. But you know what? All wars require declarations. They can try to call it and you know what they want to get around Article 1, Section 8. But wars require declarations. I mean, and both, and this is not a Democrat Republican thing, man. This is a faction thing. Members of both parties are now recalling how, I guess, George Bush came to Congress after 9/11 to seek an authorization. And you know, that's the bar they're setting. I mean, and they're right to set it, not because this war is necessarily wrong, but because process is the only thing standing between a republic and an emperor. If we let this stand, no vote, no declaration, a Truth Social post as official notification, then they say, oh, well, Mike Johnson got a phone call in the middle of the night. And then what happens when the next president does it? And the one after? And people's sons who's serving right now in the military can be put in harm's way by whoever comes next with no say from the people's representatives. That's not America first. That's just first. That's just first. And we still have who I like to call, I guess, the cover-up factions. As you can see, I'm hitting factions tonight, right? These things that, hey, Susan, better late than never. Hey, you missed a good first half. What are you doing? Probably was with your kids. It's all good, though. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But you're not going to get anything like this. You're not going to hear this from Steve Bannon. You're not going to hear this from Piers Morgan. You're not going to hear this from any of these podcasters, as you want to call it. Definitely not going to hear it from Dan Bongino punk. But I mean, but the cover-up faction. Let me talk about the cover-up faction. The Bondi. This is Epstein, right? Epstein, Bondi, Mullen, right? The Bondi situation hasn't moved, and that's the story. That's the story. We're not going to let these die. I mean, we understand the war news is eating the oxygen, but we can't let these die. This is what they want. This is the Epstein faction, the cover-up faction. Okay, a congressional subpoena was issued. The Attorney General of the United States hasn't complied. And Washington hasn't moved on her because guess what? There's a war to cover. Did you guys know that? The Attorney General of the United States has not complied with the subpoena. And there's a war going on, so Washington's like, okay, we can wait. That's the same thing, by the way, that Netanyahu, I think he's dead. I'm going to keep saying he's dead. Even though they keep putting out these AI videos. It's the funniest stuff ever, man. These AI videos. But they're getting better, they're getting better as they go. But AI is busting them, man. Their own systems are busting them when you ask, is this AI? Yep, 89% AI. Oh, yeah, this video, it was not from today. This was from 5 months ago. This, the AI is killing them, man. Right? When hey, is this real? Is Netanyahu still like, oh, no, this was from September of 2025. Oh, they just did a voiceover. I mean, but That's how these things get buried. Not in a shredder, like, I guess in a burn bag that Cash Patel said he found. Still don't know what was in those burn bags. Remember that? Remember Cash said, hey, we found some burn bags, right? But it gets buried with the news cycle. This is what happens when they get in trouble. They cause wars. How many times have you heard me say on my shows throughout the years, those that have followed me, I guess, for years, right? How many times have you heard me say when they get caught, they start a war? When they have nothing else to take, they just take us to war. When they put their, and this is Democrats as well as Republicans. Every time they get pushed up against the wall, they start a war. You guys ever notice that? So on Mark Wayne Mullen, right? He did clear the committee, so he's moving toward the DHS confirmation. So I need you guys to watch that space, okay? I have to watch that space. So I'm gonna close up this first, I guess, hour, right? Because I'm gonna take a break in between. But Madison warned us. He put it in writing in 1787, and he said the violence of faction is the mortal disease of popular governments, and we have not controlled it. This is our fault. We have not controlled it. We have 13 dead Americans in a war nobody voted for. We have a counterterrorism director who either saw something real or was a leaker who got caught. We may never know which, because the factions have already decided the narrative. We have a director of national intelligence who buried her own written assessment because the man who appointed her was watching. And we have a Congress asking what the end game is 3 weeks too late, going on week 4, day 23, March 22nd, 2026. And we have you watching on a Sunday night, not because you're told to, thank you very much, but because you give a damn. You actually care about the truth. And that's not a faction, that's a citizen. And Madison's Republic doesn't survive without you. Let me tell you that now, okay? Doesn't survive without you. It doesn't survive apathy. It doesn't survive blind loyalty to any party or any man. And it sure doesn't survive silence. And you guys know I'm not silent, and I know neither are you, or you wouldn't be here. So I need everybody to catch us every Sunday night on rumble.com, Jarome Bell, or on YouTube, Chief Jarome Bell, and on Getter. Share this broadcast because the algorithm won't do it for us, but you will. God bless the fallen. God bless the ones who still over here. God bless these United States. And I'm going to take a break, and I will be back.
Listen with purpose
All right,
when you
so I
press
am
play
back.
on religious audiobooks.
I am back. So Joe says Tulsi was Hawaii National Guard 2003 to 2020 transferred to Army Reserve, currently Lieutenant Colonel. Yeah, that's it. That's definitely it. So, I'm going to open it up for questions. Anybody got any questions? Anybody? Anybody want to come on the show? I know Joe might want to. Anybody want to come on the show? You can call in. I give you the link if you want. Let me know. Just put it in the chat if you want to. Just raise your hand. Got any questions? I mean, but what do you guys think on this? Where are you guys at? Jamie, where are you at, man? Where are you at on this right now? What side of this are you on? K9 girl, where are you at on this? So I just want to know. So are boots on the ground coming? I think that's what I want to know. Are boots on the ground coming? You think? And I'm hearing that the 82nd Airborne, may be deployed. They're on the way, possibly. I know some Marine Expeditionary Units. We talked about that on the way. So is that smart? Is that smart of Trump to do this? Do you think Trump is trying to bluff about, blowing up by, their infrastructure? Because you guys understand that is a crime, right? That is a crime. I don't feel good about it. And, I have to admit, I don't feel good about it. I mean, because, what happens in these situations is that, when you're on one side or the other, okay, or whatever, right? The side that you're not on, okay, the side that you're not on, hold on, I was playing something. The side that now you tend to forget, or people, I would say, tend to forget that the other side are people. There's people, there's human beings on the other side. So when you rah, right? I mean, because I see it all the time, especially about Israel right now, because Iran is bombing the shit out of Israel. And people are complaining. People are like, oh, help Israel, call the United Nations. Iran is committing war crimes because of cluster bombs. I'm like, where were you people when the Palestinians were getting genocided? Where were you at? Where are you at when over 800,000 Lebanese have been pushed out of their homes? Where are you at? But we tend to pick sides and stay aside and forget that there's people caught in the middle. And I say that I pray for all of the Israeli citizens that's caught in the middle of this, the Iranian citizens, Lebanese, and all my military brothers and sisters on these bases, these workers, the contractors that we don't know how many of them have died because they're not giving us the numbers on those. We don't know those numbers. They are Americans. They're just not military. And we just totally lose sight of that. We just totally lose sight of that. And, it hurts. It hurts because if you have any heart and think about people, right? And think about people, you know. I mean, and when I talk about John Madison, right? Because I sat down and and I read his papers. I read his 10th paper, and I was, and I said, you know what, this is what I need to do the show on, because I see the factions. I see the MAGA, right? I'm part of MAGA. I see the MAGA cult. I see the Democrats. I see the Republicans. I see the Joe Kent factions. I see, the ones that's against Joe Kent, right? But when Madison wrote it, he wrote this. He wrote as the Federalist 10, the vices of the political system, I guess, of the United States, basically. And hold up, okay. But I'm just queuing up something for later. Sorry about that. Do this right. Okay. Because I produce my own show, right? But he wasn't asked to write it. Nobody told him to write this. He just looked around. Basically, just take it. Just become James Madison right now. Just look around you, right? He looked around at what was falling apart and wrote down every single way it was failing the people it was supposed to serve. So just look around you. He said 12 vices. He came with 12 vices, 12 ways the system was broken. And when he showed up to Philadelphia with that list and a plan, and out of that came the Constitution of the United States. 2 months later, he sat down again and wrote the Federalist, like I say, number 10. And then in that document, he gave us a word, and that was faction. The word was faction that came out of that. And his definition, I don't know if I gave you that earlier, but his definition, the way he defined a faction, was as a group of citizens united by a common interest, adverse to the rights of other citizens or adverse to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. Not a party, not a movement, a faction. And what he said, though, he said that you cannot eliminate the factions without destroying liberty itself. So the only way to control them was through a republic. Again, man, how awesome was that when you look back at it? When you look back at it, and it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So, I just want to know where you guys stand on it. I want to know where you stand on it, because I guess under the War Powers Act, let me give you that too, just in case you don't understand the I guess the legal framework, because I know I didn't get into this early. I get in my rant sometimes, and sometimes things just pop back into my head, but because I know exactly where we are on this on this clock, but we sort of jump it, right? So under the War Powers Act itself, the president has 60 days, which I believe the War Powers Act is unconstitutional. Let me be clear about that. But the president has 60 days to conduct military operations before he must either get congressional authorization or bring the troops home. So Operation Epic Fury launched February 28th. So that means April 28th is the 60 days. day 45, when the pressure really starts, is April 13th. We are 22 days in. Think about it. We're 22 days in, and look at what all has happened. And the Senate has voted on a war powers resolution. I believe Tim Kaine and Rand Paul, but the vote was 47 to 53. It failed because, of course, Congress will not do its job. One Republican, that was Rand Paul that crossed over. One Democrat, John Fetterman, of all people. Guess what he did? He voted with the administration. The resolution never even got a House vote. Speaker Johnson refused to schedule it. This is the Speaker of the House. He refused to schedule a House vote on the resolution. He said criticism of the strikes during combat operations would embolden America's enemies. Wow. Well, you know what? The founders disagreed, Mr. Speaker, because that's why they put Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution, because they knew exactly what happens when you give one man unchecked authority to take a country to war. And this is what they've done over and over. This is just not Donald Trump. We can go back to the Bush, Obama. I mean, they lived under that. They died fighting against that. The founding fathers died fighting against this. And Mr. Speaker just waved it away in a press statement. And here's a part on cable television that nobody is really talking about. And I mean nobody. I've been trying to watch for it. And I totally mean nobody. I was reading something that Joe put in the chat, and I'll get back to that, Joe. But just before the strikes began, Oman's foreign minister announced that there was a breakthrough, and a breakthrough had been reached. Iran had agreed to never stockpile enriched uranium. They had a deal. This is what it was about, right? Nuclear material and nuclear war. Right? Iran had agreed to full IAEA verification, the foreign minister said. And I am, I guess, paraphrasing carefully here, though, but that peace was truly within reach. Talks were expected to resume on March 2nd. And then the bombs fell on February 28th. Oman's foreign minister said he was dismayed that active, serious negotiations had been undermined, and diplomats with direct knowledge of those talks said the U.S. envoy had misrepresented what was actually on the table. And this is what happened. I mean, they did it with Venezuela. They've done it before. They did it, the first time. Trump's administration can never be trusted again. Will never be trusted in any negotiations again, because he bring them to the table and then Israel goes and kill him. He goes and kill him. Trump made a joke the other day saying, "Oh, well, we want to talk to people, but there's nobody else to talk to because we killed them all." Dude, really? Really? I mean, shouldn't this be on the front page of every newspaper in America? But we know who runs the media. I mean, if Iran had agreed to no enrichment and full inspections, why did we bomb them? This is what Joe Kent was talking about, probably. This is part of what he knew. But why did we bomb them if they had agreed to no enrichment and full inspections? I know what Madison would say. He said, look for the faction. Look for the group whose interests were served by the war starting, regardless of what was on the negotiating table. I mean, and Trump went into a war with no exit strategy. When he was asked, I remember this. When he was asked, you guys may have heard this. How does this war end? And Trump said, I mean, people challenge me on certain things, man, that they don't find. I mean, damn, Google. You guys can Google anything and find the truth, but they try to. Oh, you're way off base. Somebody told me on Facebook that you're way off. When I said that, that we were lifting sanctions on Iranian oil, that was, and that Iran was about to get paid, and that Trump was lifting the sanctions. Somebody said, "Oh, you're way off." Then I just put a link in there so they can just read it for themselves from the Hill, from the White House, right? People kill me. But this was real. This was an actual statement. He said, "The war will end," quote, "when I feel it in my bones." That's what he said. When I feel it in my bones. This is what happens when you give one man power. This is what happens when you neglect your duty of doing your job as Congress. When the man feels it in his bones, the war that they said wasn't a war will end. Well, that is the exit strategy, when he feels it in his bones. And that exit strategy for a war has killed 13 Americans, wounded over now, I think probably like 230, I believe, last number I looked at. $11 billion in 6 days. We're at day 22, so do the math. 23, do the math. And they're asking still, I can't believe this, they're asking for $200 billion more. This is ridiculous. I mean, when you get to the 45-day mark, you have to start articulating something, one of two things, right? And Trump is smart. Trump knows he has 45 days before he really has to get serious. He's looking for that exit ramp, though, right? I mean, but you have to start articulating one of two things: an authorization for the use of military force to sustain beyond that very clear path on exit, which are in my bones. Either sustain it or a very clear path besides being in your bones, man. Those are really the only two options. And again, that 45-day mark is April the 13th. Mark it on your calendar. I mean, mark what happens, right? I mean, CENTCOM have surpassed over 6,000 combat sorties in 23 days. Over 100 Iranian naval vessels destroyed, okay? Military depot, so and all that good stuff, right? But nobody can answer the question. They tell you, they, put up all the, the destruction Iran, they talk about it, right? But how does this end? How does this end? Because nobody can answer the one question that matters. How does this end? So, man, I have no answers on this. I have no answers on this. Because, like Joe Olson said, Operation APEC Fury, he calls it Operation Epic APEC Fury, was a war of choice, and it was. And it was. And he said, "Who opposed the war?" by Marjorie Taylor Greene on March 19th on her YouTube channel, whatever it is. She's been outspoken. But she's lost credibility and trying to gain it back. I get it. Right? She's trying to get it back. But I mean, I guess anybody can change their mind because, like I did, I've changed my mind on Trump. I voted for him 3 times. Jamie says another war so people can make money. Yeah, no doubt, man. But that's the song, right? That's the song I open up with. You guys know that the song I opened up with is about how the how the rich people's kids don't go to war, but the poor kids do, right? You guys know what that, it's called Fortunate Son. So you guys know what that's about. And if you don't, go check it out, man. Should I play it? Should I play the whole song? You guys listen to the lyrics? You guys know, but that's about the billionaires' kids don't go to war. The poor kids do. And we go fight their wars. We fight the billionaires' wars. But that's what that song, that's, I thought it was a epic open because that's what's happening. I mean, and I still love that Joe Kent pushed back eternally. He even if he was frozen. Okay, so here's my thing, right? They say, well, he was the leaker. You know how they just try to smear you, right? They try to discredit the one man inside the administration who said that the war was built on bad intelligence. But this is it, though, right? Why? Okay, if they knew, why didn't they fire him? Why did they let him stick around? Oh, because it was just an investigation where they could have relieved him, where they froze him out of the. No, you fire people, right? I've seen this movie so many times before, and I was a participant. I was in the movie. I was in the movie. It was called Iraq. And I remember the analysts who got it right. They got their careers ended. I remember that distinctly in the movie that I served. The analysts who told the administration what they wanted to hear, they got promoted. All of them. It's the same script, the same book. This is the sequel. And I know, I know this, that the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, the man whose entire job, one did their job, one didn't, whose entire job was tracking threats to the American homeland. You got to figure, man, you got to know, this man's wife died in a war that we shouldn't have been in. He did 11 combat tours, served 20 years. He loves America. He loves America. If there was a threat to America, he would say, he has children. Do you think that this man want his children harmed by threats to America? Don't you think if there was a threat to America, he would say it? He's been there. He's lived it. He has children. But yet he said that Iran posed no imminent threat. And instead of that being the headline, we're talking about whether he leaked something. Such garbage. And Tulsi declined to answer. She declined to answer. It's just, well, Congress has 38 days left to do its job. 38 days. 38 days. So let me tell you what I guess Congress actually has the power to do right now. Because this is basically the war powers clock, I'll call it. 38 days, because too many people, including too many members of Congress, are acting like they're helpless spectators. And they're not. They're not. They have Article 1, Section 8 at their disposal. The War Powers Act of 1973, because the people, they use this and they want to throw it out here, but it passed after Vietnam specifically for this reason, for what's going on now, to stop exactly this kind of thing. Give the president 60 days to conduct operations and then requires either a formal AUMF or withdrawal. We're on day 22 and the clock is running. A Republican, I call her Rhino, but Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said today, May 22nd, 2026, that she is now considering pushing for a formal authorization for the use of military force, and that's what that is, AUMF, authorization use of military force, if boots go on the ground in Iran. Well, damn, it's going to be too late then. They're there. They're there. If they go on the boots in the ground, bitch, they're there. Do you understand that once they touch on the ground, their lives are in danger? Once they go to region, their lives are in danger. It's going to be too late for that. She said, and I'm going to try to carefully quote this, Congress deserves and should demand greater engagement with the administration on the plans. We haven't received that to date. Well, no shit. No shit. You think when those mules get in the Persian Gulf and they try to take Karg Island or try to take any territory, they're going to die. They're going to die. And today, you're considering pushing for a formal AUMF? If boots go on the ground? What? You're too late. Congress has the power of the purse. That $200 billion war funding request, it has to come back to Congress. They have the power of the purse. So that's where this gets real. This is where you hold them accountable, right? I mean, you want this war to continue, you vote to fund it. Then they're all on paper, right? They're all on the roll call vote. Who wants the war to continue? Who wants American soldiers to go die fighting for Karg Island in Iran? You want it to end, then you don't vote for it. Simple. That's the mechanism the founders gave Congress. And guess what? It still works when they want to use it. It still works when they want to use it. We cannot allow what Madison would not allow. People, we have to hold our representatives accountable. And that is for Congress to sit on his hands, continue to collect their salaries while the TSA don't get paid. What is a senator out of Florida? I forget his name. He said he couldn't afford not to take his salary because he had to pay his mortgage. But what about the TSA people that have to pay their rent and their mortgages? What about them? They're not getting paid. They haven't gotten paid. And you're worrying about your $174,000 salary that you're still collecting, while families attend transfer ceremonies at Dover and then go back there, and then the vice president comes. He's been very quiet. I think He's trying to stay quiet on this because 2028, Trump is single-handedly destroying J.D. Vance's chance at president 2028. Tulsi Gabbard could have won that the other day. If she resigns now, it's too late. She's going to probably resign. It's too late. Too late. You missed your window of opportunity. Way too late. You're done. But she's probably going to resign. And then she'll say, oh, no, it's too late. You missed your window of opportunity. You only get one sometimes, and you blew it. But they attend these transfer ceremonies at Denver, at Dover, and then you know what? They go back to doing nothing. That is the faction's preferred outcome. Inertia in the service of the status quo. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to be held accountable. April 13th. Put it on your count. That's the 45-day mark. And I'll be back on the show that Sunday, what day is April 13th on? Whether it's Sunday before and definitely the Sunday after. We were talking about what Congress did or did not do. And if they did nothing, I'm going to have the roll call vote. I'm going to say so by name. I'm going to have it. So you guys know, because accountability is not optional. And silence is a vote. I want to see how many don't vote are NVs. An NV is a vote. Accountability is not optional in this. They want us to be accountable. Right? They want us to be accountable. So, and like I've said before, before I end up and actually really close out the show tonight, got about 20 more minutes, but it may end early. But like Jamie says, how about pay TSA before they do anything else? How about pay them? Right? And Susan asks, how old is too old for the draft? Draft age is 18 to 35 years. They may expand. They may try to expand that because no one's going in. Nobody's going. I mean, did you see Hegseth's plea and beg? They're changing. Now they extended. I guess they, people that got kicked out over COVID, for not getting the jab. They had until April 2026, this April, to come back in. Well, they extended that to April 2027 because no one's coming back. And they need people. They need bodies to go die for Israel. No one's coming back, and they changed it. If you are back and you signed up for 4 years, well, you only have to do 2. You can come back in and just only do 2 years. You don't have to do the whole 4, but we just need you back, right? This is a war that we're winning. This is a war was won already, according to President Trump. This is a war that we've won. They're decimated, but they're begging people to come back in. Let me see if I have that. I might play that. May have to download it though, because I'm got so much stuff. I know people said it was AI, but it wasn't because it it looked AI-ish, but I mean the readout, it was accurate. It was very, very accurate. I'm gonna try to download this. It was accurate. The text from the White House and from the Pentagon and from war.gov. War.gov is where it was from. So when it's download out, I'm gonna play this clip. But Trump wants to replace Epstein Island. That's what Carolyn says. So 18 to 35 is the draft age right now. And I think they're passing a law where they're automatically like in the registry too now. Let me see this. Boom. Okay, so I'm gonna play, and it does look AI-ish, but and I mean they cloned him and they put him out there. But the exact same words were written in war.gov. You can go there and find it. War.gov. Let's see if I can pull this before I let you guys hear this so you guys understand what I'm talking about here. I need a producer. Anybody want to produce my show, man? We have to do the production meeting. We'll do the production meeting on Friday, you know? But man, I think I do a pretty good job. Oh shoot, which one is which? I think it's this one. So we're going to play this from the Department of War Secretary. I knew they changed the name for a reason, man. And I mean, people didn't catch that. I caught that. You guys remember when they did that in the show? And I said, "Oh, that means we're going to be at war. That means we're going to be at war. They're going to be starting wars all over the freaking place." And I hate being right, man. Jeez, I hate being right sometimes. Okay. Go.
Today, in this video, as we said we would, I want to update you on our efforts to reinstate those service members who were unjustly forced out of the military during the COVID-19 panic. While I'm proud of our efforts over the past year, our obligations to make things right are not yet complete. I'm therefore extending the application of the Department's reinstatement and return to service guidance established last April. The revised guidance will now apply to former service members, our warriors of conscience, who wish to return to service through April 1st of 2027. So we're extending this to make sure anybody that wants to take advantage of it has additional time to take advantage of it. Maybe you were waiting to see whether we meant it or not. We do. We hope you'll take a look. To further encourage the return of experienced and dedicated service members, effective immediately, the active service obligation for individuals returning to service under this guidance is now reduced from 4 years to 2 years. And this change reflects our confidence that returning members will make an immediate and positive impact and aligns our reinstatement policy with the needs of both the service members and the military services. Maybe for some 4 years felt like too much, given what had been done to them. We hope, too, entices warriors of conscience to come back. This modification will be incorporated into all future reinstatement agreements. And this policy change also applies to those service members who have already been reinstated and committed to a 4-year service obligation. So it's across the board. And given this policy modification, and to ensure that everyone whose career was cut short under the COVID-19 vaccine mandate receives the respect they deserve, I direct the secretaries of the military departments, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, within 60 days, to once again recontact those who have not rejoined already and inform them of this new information and this new opportunity. We are working hard every single day. It's our commitment to you to right the wrongs and correct the injustices of the Biden administration.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to here's the here's the statement, March 20th. Department extends invitation to bring back troop separators. So it's right here. It's the Pentagon news. Okay, and it's right here. So just letting you guys. So for all those skeptics, okay, For all those skeptics that say, "Oh man, give me the source. You're just way off base, and he didn't say that. That's AI." When the shit's AI, and noticeably AI, you don't question it. But when it's something real, it's AI. No. But yeah, that looked like it was AI. That was his clone. But but here it is right here. Okay, President Trump signed the executive order, so it's all right here. So, all right, so you guys can see it's real, right? Chief Bell is just not talking because he hates Trump. That's what they tell me now. You just hate Trump. You just hate Trump. All right, there it is. All right, so there you go. There's my TDS for the day, right? Because I just hate Trump. I mean, man, what do you do though, right? What do you say? So, but there it is, Susan. You got your question answered. All right, man. 4547 Don. Diapers Don destroying US. Cooney, Uncle Tom Faga. Who? Where? Okay. Yeah. There you go. Right. Here you go. So, gotcha. You're a little late, buddy. But anyway. All right. So, like I said, being America only. You guys know I'm totally America only now, man. I was, America first just doesn't do it, man. I mean, I call this the refounding, right? So the refounding of America. We have to have a total refounding of America. So I'm gonna close this, then I'm gonna read some names. I'm gonna do something special for those falling tonight. So, but I want to close tonight's show, basically the way, I guess, basically the way I opened it. And that's with James Madison. So again, he looked at a broken system and he diagnosed every failure, showed up to Philadelphia with a plan. And when he sat down and wrote the vices of the political system in 1787, like I said, he didn't wait for anyone to ask him to do that. So that's what refounding looks like. That was the founding, and now we have to have a refounding. That's and that's what we're doing here. That's what I'm doing on this show, and that's what we're doing. Okay. I've spent 5 years, really. I spent 5 years building a platform. Now that's what I call America only, the refounding of America. And I actually wrote a book on it. It's 550 pages long. I think maybe 600, but it has every policy, every mechanism, every constitutional foundation, not talking points, a plan. 550 pages. It may be 600. But at the center of that plan is the same thing that Madison put in. I know the book's not out yet. I haven't published it yet, but it's coming. I've been debating when that time frame, because timing is everything. So the plan is pretty much the same thing Madison put at the center of his, the consent of the governed, the idea that the government serves the people, not the other way around, and we have lost that. Not the Federal Reserve, not the IRS, not NATO, not the UN, not the military-industrial complex, and definitely not foreign lobbies or any foreign countries, but the people. We end the wars we didn't vote for. We bring the troops home. We abolish the Federal Reserve. We eliminate the income tax. We end the property tax. We secure the border. We put America first and only. That's not a slogan, but as a governing principle embedded into law. And that's not radical, even though this shows the radical Republicans. It might be a little. It may be radical for the normies, right? But that's the founding. That's where, that's Article 1, Section 8. That's the 9th and the 10th Amendments. That's what Madison, Jefferson, Washington, and Adams were actually building. And we've been lied to so long that the truth sounds extreme, and it's not extreme. It's just American. It's just America. The founding fathers now sound extreme. They're extremists. No. I have a son in the Air Force. A lot of my friends have children in the military. When I talk about no more foreign wars, I'm not talking theory. I'm talking about his life and their lives. When I talk about no congressional authorization for Operation Epic Fury, I'm not scoring political points. I'm talking about whether the next transfer case at Dover has his or their name on it. So I want every person watching tonight, definitely share this show. But everyone watching on Rumble, on YouTube, on Getter, like it, share it, get it out. No, not because I need the views, because you know me, I don't like, and it's not about me, but because the country needs this conversation, and they're not getting it. Because the men and women dying in this war deserve to have their names said out loud and their deaths accounted for. So Madison wrote Federalist 10 in 1787. He told us exactly what factions look like and what they do. We're watching it in real time. We're living it. So the question is whether we do something about it, or will we do something about it or not? The founders gave us the tools, and this refounding, and we're going to call it this. We're going to start calling it the refounding, is the will to use the tools that they gave us. So God bless our warriors. God bless the Republic. God bless America. Not the idea we have settled for, but the one that was promised. And make sure you hit those show links, Rumble, YouTube, Getter. So here are the confirmed names, 13 total, across basically two groups. Group 1, Kuwait of the port of Shuaba. That was hit with the Iranian drone strike on Tactical Operations Center. All 6 was from the 103rd Sustainment Command, Des Moines, Iowa. Major Jeffrey O'Brien. CW3, Robert Marzon. Captain Cody Cork, Winter Haven, Florida. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore. Sergeant First Class Nora Tegens and Sergeant Declan Cody, 20 years old. Group 2 was from the KC-130 crash, Western Iraq. March 12th, it was an Air Force refueling aircraft that went down while supporting this unconstitutional war. Major John Klinner, Captain Ariana Savino, Tech Sergeant Ashley B. Pruitt, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Angst, Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, and a 7th service member that died March 8th from wounds sustained in the March 1st attack in Saudi Arabia. Their identity has not been public released where I can find it. So since then it's 13. But those 12 confirmed names are real people, real families. And I want to make sure that each name was read. So you guys know this is real. So I'm Chief Jarome Bell. This has been the Radical Republicans live show. And I'm going to say good night as we go out like this.